Hi, this is Pam from the Birch Cottage blog. In this video tutorial, I'd like to show you how to sew Christmas ornaments using my template. Let's take a look at the supplies you'll need. You'll need scraps of cotton fabric, quilt batting, craft felt, matching threads, scissors, rotary cutter, self-healing cutting mat if you're using a rotary cutter, twine, ribbon, faux fur, and whatever else you want to embellish your ornament. I use the fabric from Missouri Star Quilt Company. It's their Frost and Flurry uh, design. And I am doing a quilt as you go method to just create a square of fabric that I can then cut out my ornament shape with. So I have my batting here, some leftover batting, and I have some 1-inch strips, scrap fabric of the Christmas from that collection. And I'm just sewing using about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, just a very narrow seam allowance. So once I have my first two pieces sewn together onto the batting, I just fold it over and finger press it. Then I take the next 1-inch strip of fabric, lay it down right sides together on top of the batting. And again, I'll line up those long edges and I will stitch using 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I will repeat this with each of my 1-inch strips of fabrics until I have covered that piece of cotton batting. Okay, so once I have that, I'll go ahead and trim up my fabric, and then I'm going to do some top stitching. I'm going to use a longer stitch length, 3.0 to 3.5, and I'm just going to do some quilting just along each of the seams, just inside maybe less than 1/8 of an inch on each side of those seams. It just gives it a little quilting look, and I kind of like that look in my ornaments. Okay, I'll just finish up my quilting here, and then once that's done, I'm ready to trace my template onto the top of my fabric. So I will lay my fabric right side up. I will lay the template that I have previously printed and cut out, and I cut out along the outside of the solid black line, as you'll see here in a moment. And then I use my friction pen to outline that stocking piece. So I'm going to lay the template piece down on the fabric the way that I want this stocking to be cut out. And again, I'm just going to use my fabric marking pen. In this case, I'm using a friction pen to trace around my template. Now for the Christmas stocking ornament, I also have a separate piece that is the cuff that I kind of use as a guide for you to cut out fabric if you wanted your cuff to be in a contrasting fabric. And I'll show you here in a minute what I did with some faux fur. So just finished tracing this and then I will cut it out. I am also going to cut out a piece of craft felt that is big enough to serve as the backing for my ornament. So I will lay my stocking on the fabric, the way that I want it to be rotated. And I've already done that. And I can go ahead and cut out my fabric now, or I can layer these two pieces together. My fabric, my felt, and the ribbon that I'm going to use. In this case, I'm just using some twine, some cotton twine to use to hang my ornament with. So I'm going to kind of place it in the corner at the top, just sandwich it between there. And then I'm going to use the line that I drew on that fabric as my stitch line. So I'm going to use a normal stitch length and stitch around that ornament design. Now make sure that you have the twine or ribbon, whatever you're using for your loop for hanging your ornament, that you have it sandwiched and that you have stitched across it when you stitch the fabric to the felt. Okay, I'm just finishing stitching around the outline that I drew of my Christmas stocking onto the fabric. And once I have that done, I'm going to take the pinking blade for my rotary cutter and cut out just outside that stitch line around the ornament shape. At the top where I have my loop, I'm going to cut the felt fabric first, holding the string or the twine and the other fabric out of the way. And then when I start trimming away on the top, the fabric, I will do the fabric and the felt all at the same time using my rotary cutter that has my attachment, my pinking blade attachment. You can also use pinking scissors if you have them. I just happen to have my rotary pinking blade, and that's what I used. Okay, I also want to add some faux fur to the top of my stocking. So let's take a look at how I did that. Cut out a piece of the faux fur that was 1 inch high and that would wrap around the top of the Christmas stocking and another quarter to half an inch for the seam allowance. And then I just folded it right sides together and stitched a narrow seam down the short end to make kind of a loop. And then I'll take that loop and place it around the top of my Christmas stocking just like this. And then I'm going to stitch it down along the top, back stitch here to secure my stitches, same at the end. And then I'm also going to stitch along the bottom edge of that faux fur, just like that. You could do that with fabric or any other thing that you wanted to embellish your Christmas stocking ornament with. And lastly, I'm going to take my iron and just run over where I have the ink showing on that stocking to remove that. And that is my finished Christmas stocking ornament. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions about it, please leave it in the comments below. I will leave links to the products that I mentioned and used in this tutorial in the comment section below. And please come visit me over on the Birch Cottage blog. Subscribe to my newsletter so you'll be notified when new tutorials are made available. Thanks so much for joining the Birch Cottage in this fun Christmas project.